Mr Speaker, I'm pleased to rise and make clear that the Labor Party will oppose the Television Amendment Bill. This might be called the Get the Coromandel off the Front Page Bill. It was tabled last year. It was promised before Christmas. It comes now from a directionless bill, from a directionless minister, in a government whose only direction in broadcasting seems to be towards Sky. This bill formalises the gutting of the already gutted TVNZ charter effected from the middle of last year. At that time, the minister was also introducing a Radio New Zealand charter bill which pledged no sponsorship. Now he's telling the Radio New Zealand board to get out of its mindset and consider options including sponsorship. Little wonder thousands of New Zealanders are saying to the minister, hands off Radio New Zealand. When the minister launched the Platinum Fund last year, he said it would be open to all broadcasters as a fund for premium content. Now the minister is telling the TVNZ board to look at that Platinum Fund as a source of money to keep a public broadcasting option going for TVNZ. This bill closes down that public broadcasting option. Minister, if you're successful in that ploy, that money will not be going to programs, it'll be going to be keeping on a shoestring budget a public service broadcasting option on Channel 7 alone. I think we can forget Channel 6 continuing. And you have to say, with private production television companies already feeling the squeeze, they've got every reason to ask what on earth is going on. So what has happened in the last few months? The recession has eased, but the government has taken an even harder view of public service broadcasting. This bill is about a lack of coherence from government. On the one hand, it's saying in the bill's preamble that it's in the public's interest to see New Zealand's screen heritage. And yet at the same time, the minister is Television New Zealand is providing to the Sky channel from the beginning of May a channel available only to people who purchase the Sky option. So where is the public service broadcasting option in that? Where is the government's coherence? Where is the public interest being served by that? Another example of this minister's inconsistency and incoherence is the recent instruction to the TVNZ board around the funding of Channel 6 and 7. He's telling them there is no further funding for 6 and 7 when the money runs out at the end of next year because the Minister of Finance has told him there is no money. Well, be honest about it. Be honest about it and don't dress it up as a bill. What would you do about it? You're the minister. You can do better than this. This bill is failing to spell out in any way any requirements to Television New Zealand to screen any New Zealand content. Let's just look at the bill and some of the details as it's included and provided. Looking at part 1. Purpose of the Act is to provide for the functions of TVNZ, the Crown entity responsible for conducting a television and digital media business, and ensure that TVNZ carries out its functions and maintains its commercial performance. What is that replacing? That's replacing a charter which actually said TVNZ had some other obligations as the state broadcaster. It was asked to feature programming across all genres that informed, entertained and educated New Zealand audiences. In fulfilment of its objectives, TVNZ was required to feature New Zealand films, drama, comedy, documentary programs. What does this bill spell out? That the content that must be delivered? It says this, that TVNZ must encompass both New Zealand and international content. It absolutely has no requirement on Television New Zealand, and so what it's going to do is see a further grinding back of the content that Television New Zealand is providing. That's what it's going to do. What is the point, Minister, in saying to that Platinum Fund that it become the funder of high-end content just 9 months ago when it was launched, when now you're saying to TVNZ that it should become, perhaps, the Platinum Fund, the source for its ongoing provision of Channel 7. With it is going the commitment to quality programming. This bill has no specific obligations on TVNZ for any New Zealand content at all. And you have to contrast it to the Charter for wherever its faults at least specified to TVNZ as a state broadcaster, it had some requirements upon it. New Zealand On Air is left as an organisation. You can talk about Brandt Ford. I'm going to talk about New Zealand.
The member is bringing the chair into the debate on a few occasions. You cannot use the word
Mr.
you.
Chair. I will talk about New Zealand on Air, an issue that Melissa Lee knows something about. She's been a recipient of the largesse of New Zealand on Air. It's a big time. It's an organisation which has had plenty of carrot but no stick. Last week, probably in anticipation of this bill, it announced $9.3 million in funding for high-end programs, good programs, stuff that New Zealanders will want to watch, stuff that will make New Zealanders be proud about being New Zealanders. But I suspect that New Zealand on Air is getting ahead of this announcement because the Minister's trying to get his hands on the fund he launched only 9 months ago for content. He told you tell TV3 that you want TVNZ to get most of the money from the Platinum Fund, Minister. What's happened in 9 months? Why haven't you been able to get some resources for your portfolio? What's happened? What's happened? You're also at the same time demanding that TVNZ maximise its dividend stream to you. And what's that causing? TVNZ is now in the process of a second round of job cuts. 90 jobs lost last year, 90 jobs gone. How many are we going to see announced in the coming weeks? Already we've been told $5 million taken off the TVNZ budget, $5 million going. So where's the Minister's commitment to TVNZ and its future? Where's the Minister's commitment? Just not there. This bill is an indication of that very, very clearly. It's failing on a whole number of fronts in terms of its delivery for New Zealanders and in terms of content. What we are seeing is you scrambling around trying to instruct, what the Minister is doing is scrambling around trying to instruct TVNZ to fund those two existing channels, 6 and 7, out of a dwindling return that it's managing to deliver at the moment. We know that TVNZ is being unrealistically told to crank out dividends at the maximum over the next 5 years. We're seeing a second round of job cuts looming, and all the Minister can do is introduce a bill long awaited which absolutely does nothing for public service broadcasting whatsoever. You've also suggested, the Minister has also suggested that these two channels be funded from that Platinum Fund, and we know the Platinum Fund will not deliver. He's told the Minister has told the Chair of TVNZ...
Order. Sorry to interrupt the member. The member to my right, the phrase tell a truth. Speaker's rulings 43.1 to be unparliamentary. The member has used that phrase a number of times. I'll ask him to desist. Brendan Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm certainly not going to lose my cool and storm out of the chamber like members opposite have done in the recent time when the pressure got told on them. This is a bill that confirms what this government's view is of broadcasting. It sees TVNZ as nothing more than a cash cow. Nothing more than a cash cow. The obligations enshrined in the Charter in terms of trying to deliver some sense of public service broadcasting objectives absolutely obliterated by this bill. Absolutely obliterated. Nothing wrong. What's wrong with state service broadcasting? What's wrong with public service broadcasting? Minister is telling TVNZ he wants them to deliver public service broadcasting objectives because belatedly he's woken up to the fact that actually New Zealanders do value those things. They do value those things, and they've shown it very, very clearly with the response to his instructions to the Radio New Zealand Board in the last few weeks. Very, very clearly. By the thousand of them, they've said very clearly to the Minister, we do not like your instructions to Radio New Zealand, and I suspect they won't like what he's saying to the TVNZ Board either. The instructions are really part of the whole strategy around lining Television New Zealand up for sale, stripping it of any requirement to be anything other than any other broadcaster out there in the commercial space. So what it makes it very easy for it to them say is, this is no different than any other broadcaster, so why on earth should we keep it in public ownership? That is the strategy. It's very naked, and the Minister's language around that has been quite explicit. He's been saying to the TVNZ, be nakedly commercial, I think was the phrase he used. Let them be nakedly commercial. We'll fund this tiny little shoestring operation at the back end, the public service obligation, and we will then sell TVNZ, sell Television New Zealand, and we will simply have the shoestring operation funded out of the Platinum Fund, and anything else TVNZ might be able to cobble together when it's actually paid its dividend stream to the government. That is the government strategy. That is